I really feel like the Hizmet movement is one in terms of its outreach, and really a courageous outreach, it seems to me, into all different kinds of religions and governments and political parties and charitable groups. Understanding of the Turkish government's campaign right now, the present party that one thing that was an interest to me in particular is I'm interested in healthy relationships between I think that there was some evolution, as I understand, in terms of the movement toward a more of a My name is Keith Thompson. I'm a retired United Methodist pastor, retired in 10. Had contact with the Hizmet movement in the year of '06 and went to Turkey. My wife, who was co-pastor, also we went to Turkey, sent by the Hizmet movement in '07. And have been related ever since in terms of workshops and dialogue groups and so on. The Hizmet movement, from my understanding, is a moderate movement within Islam, that Fethullah Gulen was influenced by Said Nursî, and so the movement of trying to relate Islam to the modern world, especially the scientific part of the modern world, is something that I think defines the movement for me, the Hizmet movement. There's a lot of Islamic extremism and radicalism and terrorism in the world. Unfortunately, people in the United States and other countries, I think, have not understood that that is a minority in Islam throughout the world, and then has bought into those stereotypes and therefore been afraid and sometimes hostile to any Muslims that they encounter. So I really feel like the Hizmet movement is one in terms of its outreach, and really a courageous outreach, it seems to me, into all different kinds of religions and governments and political parties and charitable groups and so on, to go to and reach out and say, we would like to, share who we are, and we would like to listen to who you are in the name of creating more global peace. That's really, something that is important, and I think especially to there's a lot of work that needs to be done by Muslims and non-Muslims allies in the United States, so that there's not so much prejudice against Muslims in the United States. The charitable activities of the Hizmet movement, I think, has been criticized as being only serving the Hizmet members or Muslims, and it's my understanding that that is absolutely not correct. From my own Christian denomination, United Methodist Protestant form of Christianity, there is a very similar commitment. The United Methodist Committee on Relief is something that reaches out to people in disasters all over the world, regardless of their religious faith or not having any religious faith, just on the basis of need. And I think the Hizmet movement has been doing that, and it's very commendable that they are. I think that there was some evolution, as I understand it, in terms of the Hizmet movement toward a more of a commitment to democracy as being the necessary form of government in our time and place in order for there to be peace and security. And so I think that that's really an important part of, of what happens in terms of the education. I guess one thing that was an interest to me in particular, because I'm interested in healthy relationships between religious faiths and politics in countries. And it was very informative for me to learn of the Turkish history, that really the Turkish position in history in secularist Turkey came from a French understanding and constitution about keeping religion out of the public square, making it only in the home and the mosque would be the place for religion, and being very oppressive to anybody like the Hizmet movement that tried to move religion and religious influence into the public, not necessarily into politics, but into the public arena. And the United States having a different kind of constitution, where in the First Amendment there is opposition in the Constitution itself to the establishment of any one religion, but on the other hand, free expression of all religions. And that's something I think the Hizmet movement has been very committed to, and got itself into a lot of trouble in past history through when there have been military coups and so on, trying to enforce that secularism. So it helped me to understand Turkey and the present Hizmet movement in relationship to the history of Turkey with respect to my own attempts to make religious faith and politics work in a healthy way with each other. My understanding of the Turkish government's campaign right now, the present party that is in power, it's kind of ironic that it was a moderate Islamic religious party that I think ground was broken through public witness and the Gulen movement in Turkey that probably made it possible for that party to take power, but that now that they're in trouble with corruption charges and also charges that they're anti-democratic tendencies right now in terms of the prime minister being an autocrat and getting rid of or eliminating any opposition, any political opposition, that in my understanding with the secularist nature of the Turkish state since modern Turkey began, that there is always an ability to appeal to secularists, and that means people who want to eliminate religion out of the public context and limit it to the mosque and the home, so that there wouldn't be public involvement of the religion, that history has made it easy right now for the present government to use the Gulen movement, the Hizmet movement, as a scapegoat. Because ironically, it seems to me, and I'm not an expert on this by any means, but it seems ironic to me that this government would be reaching out to secularists for support for their power, for remaining in power, when in the past it's precisely been the secularists who tried to keep parties like the present political party that's in power from ever having power in Turkey. So I think I understand why the Prime Minister is attempting to do this, but it seems like it is scapegoating, that it's a total misunderstanding that the Hizmet movement would be trying to, either out in the open or in secret, establish an Islamic state, an Islamist state within Turkey. And therefore it's a scapegoating that I think is pretty deplorable. I view Mr. Fethullah Gulen as somebody who is a very prominent world religious leader who has been very interested in dialogue between cultures and faiths, and that's something that is very important to me.
It's something that's taught in my faith all the time, that you don't just practice the religion within the four walls of your house of worship, There needs to be outreach. When I see Muslim organizations doing that sort of thing, how can you not approve of that? So when I see that that kind of activity is done by folks involved in this movement, I think it's a good thing.